Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am ALYA, the project manager at BAXZ3363 Solution. In this meeting, we will discuss the network security project implementation, which is MFA integration for post-laju. Firstly, let me introduce you to our company. BAXZ3363 Solution was established in 2020 in Cyberjaya. We were founded by a team of experts from the digital forensics and network security sectors who saw a growing need for specialized cybersecurity services in Malaysia's logistics industry. Our company is a dedicated consulting firm with one clear focus, which is to provide robust security measures specifically designed for logistic and enterprise networks. We understand that logistic companies like Poslaju handle sensitive customer data and require uninterrupted operations, which makes security absolutely critical. Our organizational structure is designed to deliver excellence at every level. We have our CEO providing strategic direction, a project manager overseeing implementation, specialized leads for cybersecurity and network engineering, and dedicated teams for training, security analysis, and client relations. This structure ensures that when we take on a project like securing Poslaju, we have the right expertise at every stage. Now let me introduce you to the core team that will be personally managing the Poslaju project. First, we have me, Alia BATRISYIA, as the project manager. Next, we have Yusrina Afika as the associate project manager, FATEEN AMIRAH, the security analyst, and lastly, we have ANATASIA MERAU as the network engineer. Together, our team combines project management excellence with deep technical expertise in network security, making us perfectly positioned to deliver this critical security upgrade for Poslaju. Now, let's move to a critical part of our planning, which is the risk analysis. Before implementing any security solution, we must first understand what we are protecting against. We conducted a thorough assessment of Postlaju's current environment and identified the three key risks using the standard risk formula, which is risk equal to threat times vulnerability times impact. First, the most critical risks involve their customer data. The threat is credential theft through phishing or hacking. The vulnerability is their current password-only authentication system. With an impact score of 5, meaning potentially devastating data breach, threat probability of 4, and vulnerability level of 5, this gives us a risk score of 100, which we classify as critical. This is exactly why MFA is essential. Second risk involves their immune system. The threat is unauthorized access, and the vulnerability is the lack of MFA for Outlook Web Access (OWA). With impact at 4, threat probability at 3, and vulnerability at 4, we get a risk score of 48, which classified as high priority. Finally, their shipping software faces brute force attacks due to a default login portal. This scores 18 and is a medium priority. This risk analysis clearly shows why we are prioritizing MFA implementation. It directly addresses the critical and high risk by eliminating the password-only vulnerability. Our phase implementation will tackle this risk in order to priority, starting with the most critical system first.
Hello, I am FATEEN AMIRAH BINTI MOHAMED and I am presenting stakeholder identification, RACI Matrix, baseline security assessment, monitoring and process control, and compliance documentation. For our MFA implementation at Poslaju, we identified 5 key stakeholder groups, which is Poslaju management as accountable decision makers, their IT department as consultant technical partners, our net-centric solution team as responsible implementers, Poslaju employees as informed end users, and regulatory bodies for compliance oversight. Our RACI Matrix clearly defines rules for each project phase. For example, Poslaju management is accountable for final approval. Their IT team is responsible for system access and testing. Our team is responsible for implementation and end users are informed about training and rollout schedules. This governance structure ensures clear accountability and smooth collaboration throughout the project. Our baseline assessment for Poslaju identified critical assets, including customer databases, shipment tracking systems, payment gateways, internet email and communication system, and shipping and logistic management software. The key threats we found was credential theft via phishing, unauthorized access by insiders, and brute force attacks on login portal. Additional existing vulnerabilities included single-factor authentication, lack of adaptive authentication policies, and limited login attempts. For our MFA service to push laju, we have implemented three-tier monitoring covering security threats, system performance, and user experience using CM platforms, network probers, and custom dashboards that provide 24/7 surveillance. For operational process controls, we establish a four-level incident response framework that escalates from automated blocking to SOC investigation to management oversight. We also implemented regular control activities, including daily health checks, weekly security reviews, and quarterly compliance audits. Most importantly, we created a continuous improvement cycle where monitoring data drive enhancements to the MFA service. For example, if we detect users struggling with token setup, we improve our training materials and monitor the improved adoption rates. This ensures Postlaju's MFA system doesn't just work initially but gets better over time. Our compliance approach has dual dimensions for Postlaju's MFA project. First, regulatory compliance ensures we met PDPA requirements for customer data protection, implement ISO 27001 controls for secure authentication, and adhere to logistics industry security standards. Second, ethical compliance means following project management codes of conduct, maintaining confidentiality with post-laju's sensitive information, demonstrating technical competency through certified implementation, ensuring transparent communication with all stakeholders, and fairly managing project resources. Our documentation deliverables include security policies, audit reports, training records, and ethical conduct certification. This is providing Postlaju with both legal protection and assurance of professional, ethical service delivery. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Yusrina Noafika BTS FATEEN and I will present Network Security Architecture Design. Before applying multi-factor authentication MFSBs, the network security architecture relies on traditional perimeter security using firewall and single-factor authentication through username and password. The physical topology shows the actual network devices and how they are physically within the organization. First, user connects to the internal network using their devices such as PC. The switch connects user devices to the network. The firewall controls network traffic at the perimeter. The application server provides service to the user. The database stores organizational data. Next, for the logical topology illustrates the authentication process and the data flow. User will enter username and password. Authentication server verify credential in database. If the credential is correct, the access is granted. Access control is managed by an authentication server that verifies user credential without any additional identity verification. The architecture exposes the organization to credential thief and unauthorized access if login credential compromised. After applying multi-factor authentication (MFA) service, the network security architecture is enhanced by integrating additional identity verification layer. As we see at the physical topology, the MFA server is added to the internal network. It communicates with the authentication server to enforce multi-factor authentication. Access to the application and database is protected by the MFA. For the logical topology, user will enter username and password. Authentication server verifies credential in database. The MFA server requests a second factor, which is OTP. The user provides OTP via an authenticated app. Only after successful verification is access granted. Users are required to complete another factor authentication after successful username and password verification. This implementation significantly reduces the risk of unauthorized access and strengthens the overall security posture of the organization. Configuration plan of MFA service. First authentication method. The configuration suggestion is username and password, and the second is one-time password OTP that use Google Authenticator or SMS OTP. OTP configuration acts as second authenticator factor, which make the system more secure and not rely on username and password only. Second, integration with authentication server. The MFA is integrated with the existing Active Directory to authenticate user based on centralized identity management. User needs to log in by entering username and password. Then Active Directory verifies the user and password. Next, MFA will send the OTP, and if user enter the correct OTP access, the system will be granted the access. Third, MFA policy configuration. MFA policy are enforced for high-risk access such as VPN connections, administrative accounts, and remote logins to reduce the risk of an unauthorized access. And lastly, backup and recovery method. The recovery mechanism is implemented to allow user to regain access to the system if lost or unavailable authentication devices. Recovery codes and administrator assisted resets are used to allow secure enrollment of MFA without compromising system security. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, I am ANATASIA PURAH. I'm going to present the deployment setup and prioritize mitigation strategies for our post-RACI ordering system. So in deployment setup, in phase 1, we begin with a comprehensive assessment, identifying all system and user groups, selecting Google Authenticator with SMS fallback as our MFA method. Occasionally rollouts during low traffic periods. Process control is change approval port, CAV, reviews, and signs off on deployment plan. Next, in phase 2, we deploy MFA to IT department and administrator. We collect the feedback and refine policy. After that, we test recovery options, which is backup codes and admin resets. In process controls, all changes are logged in CMDB, which is a database and reversible to ensure safe deployment. In phase 3, over 4 weeks, we only enable MFA to internal employees, and then followed by external partners and remote users. We will conduct live training sessions and distribute user guides. Next is process control. Access is only granted after MFA enrollment, and any exceptions must be formally approved by a manager to maintain security and compliance. In phase 4, we enable authentication login to SIM, monitor failed attempts and anomalies, quarterly review, and policy updates. In process control, we automated alerts that are triggered for suspicious login attempts, and quarterly access reviews ensure that only authorized users retain MFA access. Based on our risk analysis, we have prioritized mitigation strategies as follows. So for critical risks, like password-only authentication on customer data system, we immediately enforce MFA on all admin and customer-facing portals, starting in week 1. Next, for high risks, such as the lack of MFA on the email system, we enforce MFA for all email access, integrate with Microsoft 365 in week 2. And lastly, for medium risk, including default login settings on the shipping portal, we implement an account logout policy after 5 failed attempts. These prioritized actions ensure we address the most severe risks first while maintaining a structured and secure rollout.